Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show where, after the collision, we sift through
The wreckage.
the wreckage. I am your host, Jimmy T. That is my co-host, the vet Jamie Williams, and last but not least, though, I mean, man, it's been a long time coming. He is Mr. HMG himself, Dr. Michael Jargo, man. Welcome back to the show, and man, it's been a long time coming, bro, and we're just happy to have you here. What's cracking?
You're lucky that I am here, because if you would have asked me to do this before I had watched Rampage and Collision, I probably would have just stayed in bed, Jimmy.
Jimmy, did you tell him he had to watch Rampage and Collision?
Yes.
Well, not Rampage. I said Collision particularly, but and of course,
no.
Tell me you watched Dynamite though, Jargo.
Yeah, I watched all of it, man. And AEW, much like the Vince McMahon documentary, is just, it's marketed to a certain niche of people. And I'm starting to feel like I'm just not in that niche.
Well,
What a segue.
actually, good
What a segue, Jimmy.
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
a goddamn professional.
It's goddamn.
Oh, perfect segue. And speaking of the Vince McMahon biop or whatever you want to call it, Vet, I'm going to start with you first. I'm sure you
Okay.
watched it this past week, just like everybody. What'd you think of it, man?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I think of it. I think I was about 20 minutes into part 2 when I said, wait a minute. Am I really sitting here? Am I going to sit here for another 4 hours and 40 minutes and listen to them talk about Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant and all the same bullshit that they've been telling you, their whitewashed version of wrestling history that everybody has heard from the beginning of their, the rise of the McMahon Empire and all this stuff, the same shit from the same people. I'm listening to Bruce Pritchard and Hulk Hogan and a little bit of Vince McMahon. And then it dawns on me at some point, I was like, wait a minute, did you just go from WrestleMania 3 to WrestleMania 6? So this tells me that either nobody asked Vince McMahon about Randy Savage, or Vince McMahon gave people sound bites that were unusable about Randy Savage, or they just cut everything out of Randy Savage for time purposes or whatever because it wasn't relevant. But that's just like a small thing I noticed. That doesn't matter. So I turned it off 20 minutes into episode 2 because I realized, oh yes, what was I thinking? Of course, this is what it was going to be. It's going to be an extended A&E biography episode, and this might as well have been funded by the WWE. So I'm not going to learn anything that I didn't know, not about wrestling, not about the WWE, not about Vince McMahon, and not about the trial, because they're not going to be able to comment on anything that we don't already know. So, to answer your question, what did I think? I think it was time to turn it off about 80 minutes in.
Wow. And I don't blame you, by the way, but Jargo, what's your thoughts, man? I'm sure it's pretty similar to the Vets.
Well, I actually suffered through all like 5.5 hours of it. So I made it a little bit further. There's a few different things that you have to keep in mind as you're watching this documentary, right? So I feel like the problem with the quote unquote documentary, other than all the falsities that are spread throughout the entire thing, is it is marketed to people who are pro wrestling fans. The people that are pro wrestling fans already know everything. There's not a new story in there. I thought the most interesting thing was the whole reason with like Shane leaving the company and then, his return and everything. That was the most interesting part of the doc, because we don't know a lot about that relationship and exactly what happened. Okay. The problem is this documentary should be for people who kind of know who Vince McMahon is. Like, they are the real audience for this is the people that like Tiger King, the people who are watching Chimp Crazy, not the people that watch every wrestling show on every network every week. That's who they marketed to, but that's not for us. It's for people that
Right.
don't know all of these stories. So I think the wrestling fans are very, very disappointed because there's no new information here. But it's not for you. It's for people that don't know all that information, right? So there's already a flaw inside of the narrative that they were trying to push out. The other thing that really stands out to me is you're seeing everything from Vince's perspective. It's what
Yeah.
Vince wants you to know. And some of that is true, most of it is not. Right? So, but it's Vince's perspective. A perfect example WrestleMania 7. They're talking about Hogan versus Slaughter. And they say, it got too hot.
Did they say the bomb threat thing?
Yeah, but
And
it was
they did.
too
They
much
did.
heat. That's why it didn't work. There was too much heat for what was going on, and people rejected it. No, the problem was you booked Hulk Hogan versus a heel Sergeant Slaughter in a giant stadium that nobody wanted to see. So you had to change venues so that you could make WrestleMania look like it was actually a big event. Like there were so many problems with WrestleMania 7. And one of them was not that the program had too much heat.
No,
that is
'cause that's
not what the
bullshit.
problem was with WrestleMania 7.
That is
Right?
bullshit.
And there's a lot of that bullshit spread throughout the show. Vince and Hogan both come off as completely naive when it comes to the CTE thing. They completely brush over the steroid trial, which should have been like at least 3 episodes all by itself. He absolves himself over everything having to do with Owen Hart. Everything having to do with Chris Benoit, which you can kind of defend Vince on that one because let's face it, Benoit took head bumps in a lot more places than just in the WWE, right? Like but there's so many inconsistencies and just absolute made up bullshit. Like Hogan versus Andre at WrestleMania 3. Like Hogan has told these lies for so long that he even believes the shit coming out of his mouth at this point. It's absurd. Just watching the entire presentation. The other problem with the documentary, as far as I'm concerned, is you have to look at when it was made, right? So this was filmed primarily in 2021, when Vince was still in power. People like Trish Stratus, she's not going to sit there and tell you the true story about Vince McMahon because she still wants to come back to the WWE and get a fucking payday. That was the problem with everybody inside of that documentary. The only thing that anybody was interested to see was the Janelle Grant stuff. 5.5 hours, 5 hours into the documentary, they hadn't even mentioned her name. And as soon as they did, Vince stopped filming. And they got the hell out. They barely give you a once-over of that. So it's much more an A&E biography style documentary. That's an absolute perfect way to describe it. And if you were expecting that you were going to learn something new, it's the pro wrestling world where everything has been exposed for 35 years. What is wrong with you? It was not for the pro wrestling fan. It's for the casual Netflix watcher that was like, oh, I used to watch wrestling 30 years ago. This might be interesting. That's who the documentary is for, not people like us.
And I want to say that, like, of course it is, and it should be even. But the thing is, not only is it misleading in the sense of like the salaciousness, it's even misleading if you just want a little more focus on Vince. Because like you said, I don't need to hear what in the fuck does Andre not telling Hogan to slam him until the middle of the match have to do with Vince McMahon. They don't even ask Vince McMahon's perspective on that situation. So it's like, if you funneled everything through Vince McMahon, those questions and those interviews to get like a completely one-sided perspective of it, that would have been something entertaining for casual people and even hardcore wrestling fans, because it's called Mr. McMahon. And the poster and the marketing and everything is trying to tell you that this is about Vince McMahon, when the whole thing started out and kind of ended up as another puff piece for the company. So if you had just got his like a drilled down focus on just Vince's opinions and recounting and stories and all this stuff, it doesn't matter if it's true or not, because it'd still be interesting. It would still be something different. It would be something that we haven't heard for 40 years. And it would be the stuff that the people, if you were a casual wrestling fan in Hulkamania era, the Attitude Era or whatever, you would have known all the stuff they showed you anyway, even if you stopped watching it back then. So recounting all this stuff isn't going to do anything for you. And it's not going to do anything for the Tiger King audience, who is really looking for like more of a narrow focus. There's probably too much wrestling for a casual fan, if you really think about it. And I didn't even watch the whole thing. It's just, that's what I figure. But since you did watch it, I mean, am I kind of on the money with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 1,000%. You're absolutely on the money with that. It is meant to be an ego stroke for Vince McMahon. And I don't even know who you necessarily put the blame on, because of the way that this thing is presented. I don't know if it's the producers that wanted to put things together this way. Like, even at the end, they interview Bruce Pritchard, who had just seen a rough cut of like the first 4 episodes of the documentary, and he accuses them of putting out a hit piece on Vince McMahon. And I'm like, I just watched the first 4 episodes. There's nothing here that is a hit piece. Vince McMahon is a dirtbag. We all know that already. We've known that for years, and we just don't care. What did you expect it to be?
Yeah. And Jimmy, I know you did like a whole, you and Chris Ames did like a whole thing, right? So,
right, that's right.
Yeah, I'm sure you said everything you wanted to say on that.
I've spoken about it more than once.
Yeah, but here's let's talk about this aspect of it, guys. Obviously, before the thing aired, we saw the tweet, right? The tweet. I'm not going to bother recounting it. You all saw it. You're all tired of hearing it, right? You saw the tweet. Then we heard the rumor or the report or whatever that Vince tried to buy the documentary back and all this stuff, right? Okay. So to me, that is more of an admission of any kind of guilt than any other thing you could do, because the way it aired, I'm sure you could probably tell me it probably wasn't worth buying back. There was nothing to worry about, right?
No,
which means that
there's nothing that was that controversial in the entire documentary. I mean, unless you want to consider, like, the Chris Benoit stuff. Is that controversial in any way? No, we've known that story for 25 years.
And that's not the reasoning why he would try to buy something back. He wouldn't be doing it over something that's from like 15.
The Owen stuff. Like, we all know. We've known what happened here for years. Go ahead.
He was afraid of something that wasn't there. An innocent man would not be that. He would not be afraid. If he had nothing to hide, he wouldn't be worried about the documentary airing. He wouldn't need to make public statements. He wouldn't need to try to buy it back. So it's like I've been telling you guys all along, if you've been following me since all these things have been broken from the original tweet, well, time to retire and all this other stuff. His actions are showing everything you need to know if you're still on the fence, or if you're like, well, innocent until proven guilty, or all these things. Like, if you actually pay attention to his behaviors and everything he's done before any evidence would come out, the way he acts, and when he's afraid of what this documentary will do and it does nothing, that means A, he didn't watch it like he said he did, even the rough cut or whatever he said. He didn't watch it. And B, he's afraid of something. He was afraid of something when he fucking retired, and we didn't know about it for another couple of years. So he's getting ahead of things that he knows he's guilty of before we realize he's guilty of something. He's telling on himself, and he just did it again. So I just wanted to point that out.
Even like when it comes to some of the rape allegations and whatnot, Vince's defense is, well, it's out of the statute of limitations. So that means that we can't talk about it? No, Vince, that just means that you're not going to jail for it. You're not going to be tried for it. That doesn't mean that the court of public opinion doesn't get to talk about all this stupid, ridiculous, heinous shit that you have done for years. Oh, well, the statute of limitations. That doesn't absolve you from people talking about it, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Facts. And I just wanted to point out, because Jargo, you reminded me when you brought up WrestleMania 7, what they failed to also mention about WrestleMania 7, if they had so much heat like they claimed they did, right? Wasn't WrestleMania 7 meant to be in the stadium in LA? What's it
Yeah, that's what I
called
said. Like
again?
the ticket sales were
Right.
so bad that you literally
Right.
had to move venues.
To the
That's not because
Coliseum.
Sergeant Slaughter had too much heat.
Right. Exactly. Which I find
But things are
funny.
different now. They would never have a situation like that these days. NXT St.
Oh
Louis.
yeah. And Money in the Bank 2 years ago, if you guys remember. So it's been happening quite frequently. But also, yeah, look, if you're already if you're already a wrestling fan like we have been for how many years, from all of our lives practically, all this stuff you would have already known about. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was surprised that they didn't. Well, not surprised, but kind of disappointed that they glossed over so much shit when really they said they had over 100 hours worth of footage, right, that they filmed with everybody. But this is a bad job of condensing this shit. And did it really put Vince in a bad light? I mean, honestly.
I don't know. I don't think any of us can answer that question because we all
Right.
see Vince the way that we have seen Vince
Right,
for
exactly. Spot
years,
on.
and
Yep.
it's I already view Vince in a bad light. Well, before a 5.5 hour documentary, I viewed Vince there's nothing here that's going to change anybody's opinion.
No, spot on, man. It's true. 100%. The Shane thing was quite interesting though. Even though we've heard all the rumors and whatnot, but still the fact that Shane's relationship with Vince, and Shane wanting to take over the company too, on top of that, and then Vince just to do this to him, really, is just so like wrong. You know what I mean? And that's how selfish and power hungry of an old man Vince truly is. But what I found even funnier was when he says, "I'm nothing like the character Mr. McMahon," but everybody else says bullshit. He's pretty much the same person, and him scoffing like, "Ah," when everybody said otherwise. I found kind of funny. And Hogan, they portrayed Hogan as a snitch and a hero to Vince at the same time, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Which is
Well,
so
did
like
you really
weird.
need this for that kind of, great insight? I mean, like
Right? No,
the,
absolutely
the, the
not.
only thing that really, like, Hogan admits to being a snitch. Like we've all known it for years that he ratted out Jesse
Right.
Ventura when Ventura was
Yeah,
trying to
we've
put
always
together
known
the
that. Right,
Wrestlers Union.
absolutely.
We've all
Yeah.
known it for years, but I think this is the first time I ever heard Hogan admit to being a snitch.
But what he did though was one of the smartest and ballsy moves when they when the FBI, made him a federal sort of witness, right? And he got immunity too. Like he managed to get immunity, right? But what they didn't, contemplate was him going against them, but he's already got immunity. So, that takes balls that he actually went against their wishes just to say, no, Vince never gave me steroids, never told me to use steroids. But essentially saving Vince's butt, let's be honest, he did. If it wasn't for Hogan's testimony, that's it. He would have been in jail. But because he said otherwise, that takes balls. So, and the one thing I didn't know though, I didn't know Phil Mushnick or Mushnick, whatever you want to pronounce his name. Now we've known him to what he's been Vince's sort of pimple on his butt for many many years. You know what I mean? Always writing negative shit in whatever article. But what I didn't know is the fact that he was an FBI informant. Like what the fuck? That's
I
crazy.
feel like most journalists at that level are FBI informants. I mean,
It
especially
makes
once they start
sense.
going down that path, like the FBI is
Mm,
going to come knocking. You know what I mean?
for sure, no doubt about it. But that was a great take by both of y'all, and I agree with both of you. But like I said, look, it was well done in terms of production, sure, right? It was good in that sense. But other than that, yeah, if you already know all this shit. There's very little that you wouldn't know. Put it that way. But I'm glad to get both of y'all's opinions though. So that is awesome. And Vet, don't even bother watching the rest. Like Jargo said,
I'm not. I figure
right?
any I figure any relevant information will just filter its way to me anyway, and I'll just glean it in little bits here and there if it's that important. And if it isn't, then whatever.
No, absolutely, man. And by the way, we are live on Hamid Media Group YouTube channel and later on channelattitude.com. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us in the chat. Everyone's got all sorts of opinions about it. But it's if you haven't checked it out, but you know everything about Vince, don't even bother checking it out because there's nothing new
If
that
you
you don't
haven't
already know.
checked it out, don't go watch Queen of Violence instead. The docudrama that they did about Dump Matsumoto is so much better than the Vince McMahon documentary.
Oh, well, most of them are much better than the friggin' Vince documentary. Let's be honest.
Well, and Dump
You know
is
what I mean?
just an interesting, figure inside of that 80s Japan pro wrestling world anyway. It was very cool, very well done, even if they did, take plenty of liberties. Like, Vet, did you know that all wrestling in Japan is a shoot? Like that's pretty much the way that they presented it. It's kind of weird, but very well done regardless.
Well, they're somebody's trying to keep kayfabe alive.
Never died in Japan, brother.
Oh man. Anyway, boys, let's get into some news though before we start doing some sifting. Apparently, according to Swerve Strickland, fellas, and I'll start with you, Vet. AEW signed a new media rights deal with Fox, and the rumor is that I keep forgetting what the hell Shockwave. That's the show. Apparently, this Shockwave show is going to be on Fox. I don't know what Fox. I don't know if it's FS1, if it's on normal Fox. It'll probably be on FS1, like Jargo's not even no.
Yes, it'll be on FS1. It's not going to be on Fox. It's going to be on a Fox property.
That's what I think too. So, well, Vet, is this true? I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't announce it if it wasn't, right? I mean, shit.
Is it true? What kind of question is that? I don't know. Why is my question is why is Swerve the one to be? Why are we learning this from him?
That's a good question. I mean, we never learned anything from Tony Khan.
Last time I saw this guy, he had a syringe in his mouth. Can he even talk?
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. Vet, I mean, what can I say? I mean, he's been doing all sorts of rounds after the syringe incident. So, I mean,
he's definitely not a Japanese wrestler. Well, I mean, Jargo, you seem to know something. Like, what do you have to add to any, actual information that could be?
Well, there's no actual information to be had. The Fox thing has been rumored for a while now, but it's going to be FS1. They're not putting AEW on Fox broadcast television. It's just that Fox, very much like NBC, owns so many different properties that yes, he is factually correct that it will be a deal with Fox. But you know what we don't need? Another hour or 2 hours of AEW content that can't even fill the 6 hours that they have already.
Well, be careful what you wish for, Jargo, because we're going to get it. But apparently, this Shockwave show is supposed to replace Rampage, though. So I don't think we're getting another hour of content, which is, changing the name
Thank
of
God
the show.
for small favors.
Something like that.
A show by any other name is still an unnecessary hour. Well, I'm not going to say that the hour is unnecessary. What you need to do is put people on it, because you have too many people that work for you that aren't earning a paycheck. They're just getting one. So if you have this many hours, you need to fill it. And that's a problem with both of these major companies. You got all these hours and people are talking about, oh, will SmackDown go to 3 hours, or what's Raw going to be on Netflix, or yada, yada, yada. And it's like, it doesn't matter. They got enough people to do 2 6-hour shows. They're not using people that they have. People are sitting at the building. So you can fill the time. It's not a question of can they do it. It's will they do it. And so if you've got AEW's got all these people under contract and most of them are missing in action, then yeah, you can actually make a useful hour of television. But I'm just not sure that I feel confident that AEW can put on a necessary extra hour of television.
Interesting. Sticking with AEW and Swerve because, as I was saying, he's been doing the rounds everywhere. Um, as we reported earlier in the year, obviously, Swerve Strickland signed a new contract with AEW during this past August All In 2024 event that is currently believed to make him among the highest paid wrestlers in the wrestling industry. WWE apparently had a negative reaction over Strickland's new deal, claiming that it was bad for the sport over their view of AEW paying him way more than what they perceived his market value is. So, in a recent episode of Power 105 FM's The Breakfast Club show featured Strickland as the guest, one of the topics discussed included Strickland's thoughts about the reports of WWE's negative reaction over the monetary amount for his new contract with AEW. And this is what he had to say, which is kind of mind boggling in my opinion. But anyway, he goes on to say the only complaint is when a black person gets paid. I will say that. When he gets paid, once again, we shake the foundation of things like that because it's like, oh, snap, wait, it's not what we would pay. And then I'm like, then why are you calling me? Why are you asking me? Like, if I'm not your concern, don't worry about it. Don't worry about my pockets and our money. We're good. You have your talent. You made your decision with me 2 years ago. So no hard feelings for me. Boom, I keep moving. I'm going to figure my way out and I'm going to build myself up. Jargo, what do you think of that statement, dude? I thought he went a little too far, but I'll get to my point a bit later.
Is there going too far when you're asked a stupid question like that? I mean, like that's pretty much how I feel about it. Like I feel like it was a stupid question, which is pretty much what we get out of the Breakfast Club on a pretty regular basis.
Oh God.
This is another one of those things that going back to the Vince documentary, right? Where Vince kind of freaks out at the idea that what WCW was doing to Vince and stealing his talent was completely different than what Vince did to the territories.
Absolutely.
It's literally exactly the same thing, Vince, but he doesn't see it that way. This is kind of the same way. Like, if Tony Khan wants to overpay Swerve Strickland, who cares? Nobody cares. It doesn't reset the market. Like, WWE is trying to present this thing like the New York Giants just paid Daniel Jones $300 million a year, and it's going to completely reset the entire quarterback market throughout the entire league. No, Tony Khan overpaid for a talent that you didn't want to begin with. So who cares? That's pretty much where I stand on it.
Everybody, I don't know about how things are now. I just know that when I was active in the wrestling business, the people around me seemed to have a sort of a certain like creed that they like to say, which was make your money and get out. So everybody is trying to get what they can get. And that doesn't just stop at wrestling. Every pro athlete or whatever. To Swerve's point, if you want to talk about what he's saying, like as far as like you have a problem when a black man makes money, I do notice that, I see it all over, whether it's social media, whether it's reading between the lines on like national television programs where talking heads are debating things about sports and whatever. A lot of people, when guys are trying to make their money and get out, a lot of these pro athletes are called greedy. They're called spoiled. Basically the people that make the sport exist are, when they're trying to make their money and get out, they're vilified for it. We don't really vilify all the owners of the teams that are raking it in when they're charging for all the concessions at the stadiums and the parking and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like all of that, and how much, and they can afford to pay all these people to do the thing that they're there to do. Anybody that is able to get what they can, I'm in favor of that. But I do see it. I do see what Swerve is saying. there's certain people that will never hesitate to, defend an accused white billionaire of something because they have so much money. But if a black man wants a certain contract, then we got a problem, and then people are greedy and spoiled. I see it.
No, absolutely. Look, and he played that card also, the race card, I think, because he was on the Breakfast Club. Everyone knows Charlemagne, the God. You know what I mean? He played up on that shit. That's what I think, anyway, in my opinion. I doubt he would have actually said that if it was anywhere else. But because of Charlemagne in particular, who would have been salivating at that shit, I think he played up on that a little bit. But still, like you said, get your money, absolutely. I've got no problems with that, but you don't need to go there, like, the race thing and all that. That's just my opinion, but absolutely.
Well, it makes people like you uncomfortable. But these things exist in the world, and I really I'm much less concerned about, other white people's comfort levels than I am about people getting the money that they feel that they deserve. But, and most cases they do.
Right, no, absolutely. But does WWE have any sort of point though, Jargo, for example, because all reports are suggesting that he gets paid $3.5 million a year for Swerve, and I can see how WWE would be concerned about the market sort of inflating if TK is paying these sort of contracts.
I don't see any issue with it at all. I mean, if Tony Khan is crazy enough to pay Swerve $3.5 million a year, then good for Swerve. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I do not care about a billionaire overpaying somebody. It's no sweat off my back. Good for Swerve. I mean, but sure. Is there an argument to be made there? No, because WWE has underpaid their talent for years, for decades. WWE underpaid their talent. So now if they're upset because somebody is actually going to pay the talent, so now they actually have to pony up and pay their talent, meh, I don't care. Like, that is no sweat off my balls whatsoever.
Nicely put. Well, sticking with AEW news, since there's quite a bit, but apparently, according to Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp, to be more specific, Saraya has signed a new contract with AEW. I don't know how long, the terms are, but that's according to Sean Ross Sapp. I'm surprised because I heard WWE were actually interested in getting her. I'm not expecting any of you guys to really say much about this, but is this a good deal? I mean, Vet, do you even care that she signed with AEW? I mean, who cares really? But
maybe
them, guess, maybe
one of Saraya's rules was that she has to get a new contract, or she's not going to do this match.
We'll get to that shortly. But and the last news that's semi-important.
Wait.
Oh, you got an opinion? So, go for it, Jargo.
Yeah. So are people upset that he overpaid the British white girl too? Because Saraya getting a new contract at all is her being overpaid.
I agree. She's so regressed, dude. Like, I don't know, man.
It's not even regressed. It's just 90% of the time, I forget that she's even on the roster. She doesn't do anything. So her getting paid 50 cents was Tony Khan overpaying for Saraya. Like, where's the outrage about the little white girl that just got overpaid? I bet you Charlotte Flair is greatly annoyed that Saraya just got a 50-cent raise for the next, 6 weeks.
I bet she's got a fat contract too, man. But whatever, yeah, no, you're right. Who cares? But Labrat says in the chat, was Saraya's brother included in their contract? Probably. I mean, I can see that.
He's another one of those guys that I don't even see on Ring of Honor anymore.
He did sign, didn't he, Vet? As far as I remember.
He did,
he did sign a contract.
Yeah,
right.
You got to watch the, what did you call it? Or what did Cody call it? The shoulder content? You got to see that. If you want to see the family, if you want to see that family, you got to watch the Rampages and the Ring of Honors.
Well, boy. Well, that's what we're here for. But in sticking with AEW news, as I'm sure you guys have heard, I know you know this, Vet, and I don't know if you know Jargo, but I'm sure you've heard. But apparently the Lucha Brothers, wanted to sign with WWE. Now apparently Penta has already done so, according to reports. But Tony Khan has decided to slap an extra year of injury. What do they call it? The injury contract, whatever. Since he was out for about a year, so he slapped on an extra year, which apparently stops Phoenix from going to WWE with his brother. Jago, is that the right move on TK? If you were TK, would you do that, or is that just an asshole move?
Yes, to both. It's absolutely an asshole move, and yes, I absolutely would have done it. I he has not fulfilled the terms of his contract. He's been injured for
No.
most of his contract. Given how frequently Phoenix is injured, this might end up being a 30-year contract just to get that year's worth of time out of him because he's injured all the time. But now maybe Tony Khan can get upset that the Mexicans are getting paid too much money in WWE and resetting the market because there was no interest from me at all to bring the Lucha Brothers anywhere. The only time the Lucha Brothers were cool was in Lucha Underground, and that shit was like 8 years ago. They are living off of a reputation from 8 years ago. Penta should be a singles act anyway. Phoenix should be a singles act anyway. They are stale. They need repackaged. There's no good promos there. I personally wouldn't have brought the Lucha Brothers anywhere except maybe CMLL or AAA because those are the only two places they're going to draw any goddamn money.
Triple A. No.
That's why I'm
what I
so
say.
glad that Jargo is here, because that
Absolutely.
what he just said saved my throat just a little bit extra. It'll just be that much more rested for the next promo I have to cut. So I appreciate that, and that's what I would have said basically, except for the only part I don't stand with Jargo on is that I do kind of want Penta. I could leave Phoenix. I understand if they're a package deal, it's worth it to me to get them both if I can have Penta because...
Okay, wait, or would you want Penta from 8 years ago?
But
you want Lucha Underground Penta, not this crap that we've been seeing, just repackaged PG version of Penta.
Yes. And if I was bringing him in, he would be that because I'd be the boss. So that's the whole thing that people have to remember. Like, if Saraya isn't worth 50 cents, that's not her fault. They should have made her worth 50 million. That's their job. There's a word, okay, that we use sometimes in wrestling or in sports, like especially fight sports. It's called a promoter. Do you know what the word promote means? That is the whole idea of it. It's like you call people wrestling promoters and then you say, well, you didn't get over. I mean, some people are doing all they can to get over. It depends how much help you're getting from your promoter, how much promotion you're getting from your promoter. The way you could fumble the Lucha Brothers, even as a tag team act, it's astonishing. But they did it. And so now I bet WWE is, rubbing their hands together like, well, we see the Penta from 8 years ago or something. That's the only reason I could see them having, outward interest, like to the point that the public knows about it, is them seeing the same potential. And that's what I would see. So I do see value in them, and whatever their market value is, whatever that is, that would be for them to determine what they think it is. And they're not going to probably care one way or the other what is on Swerve's contract when they sign that deal. It's just going to be what it is. So but I would love to see what a real marketing machine could actually do with those guys.
Probably the same thing that WWE has done with Dragon Lee.
Yep, probably. But just the hope. Just the hope. The hope exists. A glimmer.
I ran out of hope a long time ago, Vet.
So you're saying
I've come here to hope and chew bubblegum.
We're gonna get lucha with all the boys from AEW, all the luchadors. Could we get a
Yeah,
house
nobody would
party
know the
for that?
difference between that guy and Phoenix. Like, the casual fan that would want to watch the McMahon documentary, right?
100%.
The only thing I
100%.
want to see out of Penta inside of a WWE context is I want to see him on Monday Night Raw just walking through the backstage area and then see Io Shirai and Kairi Sane and turn around and go the other way because he's already fought them girls once and he wants no part of that again. I would pop huge for that. That's the only thing I want out of Penta in a WWE context.
He's doing that Penta walk, though. You know what I mean? They had that little stride that he does, whatever it is. And
Yeah,
then
he
just
sees
puts the bass on.
Io and Kyrie coming, and he turns around and he runs out of the building just as fast as he possibly can.
That would pop me for sure. And I can picture it, like, literally. Well, fellas, you know what, man? I can go into it, some other news, but they're not really that important. So I think it's time that we do this. I've got my gloves ready, my disposables. I'm going to put the gloves on and we're going to start sifting through this AEW wreckage as we do week in, week out. So, Vet, I'm going to handball it straight to you.
All right.
And take it away with how much wreckage we need to sift through because there's quite a bit of wreckage, fellas.
Yeah, it's Grand Slam week, guys.
Yeah.
Aren't you excited?
Grand
Aren't you
wreckage.
excited for this Grand Slam? So, without knowing if he has an opponent or not, Nigel McGuinness starts off our show on Dynamite in his full gear. They hit Bryan Danielson's music. No Bryan Danielson. Then we hit Final Countdown. And then we get a Bryan Danielson. And then we get Nigel versus Bryan Danielson. As I was watching Nigel McGuinness, the first thing I noticed was, I know that you've been waiting for this for a long time. This is your big moment. This is an important thing for you. And what I was thinking was there was time to tan. You could have tanned this whole time instead of putting the orange stuff all over you and getting the streaks and the uneven. You couldn't quite reach the middle of your back and like all these other things. You could have been just a few minutes a day in a bed in the sun, however you like to, you prefer to do it. There was time to tan. You didn't do it. That's really my biggest note. I will pitch to Jargo any thoughts he had on this match. I know how you feel about wrestlers forced into retirement that come back. So, please, anything you have to offer.
Well, this was far from the most egregious wrestler that was forced to retire and come back revelation. We have one of those a little bit later on during Collision or Rampage, one of those stupid fucking shows. This went 19 minutes. 19 minutes of Danielson versus McGuinness, which, 15 years ago in Ring of Honor sounds absolutely wonderful. This didn't work for me. And that's somebody who knows the rivalry, let alone somebody who had never seen Nigel McGuinness wrestle before. Like, they do own Ring of Honor, right? Like, they do own the rights to all this video footage of all these matches between these two guys and the rivalry that put Ring of Honor on the map, which isn't entirely true, but they didn't do any of this. Like, I realize Nigel has been talking smack about Brittle Brian for over a year. And then this is the match that we got. It was like a catch-as-catch-can type wrestling match. Like, this should have been a
That's putting it lightly
down, like, grunge feud, right? Like, no, it was, and Nigel saying thank you as he taps out. None of this made any kind of logical sense. You know what I would have wanted, what I really wanted to see? I really wanted Brian to not show up, because then we could actually kick off this creative program and really have it go somewhere with the whole Brian fears Nigel thing. Like, you could have showed the video footage. You could have shown some of the bloodbaths that they had. They just, this feels like the Bryan Danielson retirement tour. And like, this was the first match where it was like, okay, so we gave him his gold watch. Now he's going to start making his rounds and wrestling people like Nigel. And it's fine. It's just, This is one of the big issues with AEW all the way around, right? It could have and should have been better. That's the way that I feel about all of the everything AEW is putting out at this point. It could have and should have been better. Nobody thought Nigel McGuinness was going to beat Bryan Danielson the second final countdown hit. And it went on for 20 minutes of us wondering, is Bryan going to beat him now? No? Okay. How about no, not yet. And that was very much the way I felt about the whole match. And what they were doing 15 years ago was like cutting edge,
Completely
groundbreaking
different.
stuff. Yep. And now it's, a Tuesday afternoon on WWE Speed. There's nothing that they were doing that was that impressive. The rivalry didn't feel that hot. It felt like two old friends getting together one last time before he retires. That's very much what it felt like to me. There no heat at all. People were happy to see Nigel McGuinness back.
But wait a minute. Long-term storytelling, Jargo, like you said, 1 year of McGuinness just berating Bryan Danielson.
But the problem is nobody sees it because nobody's watching Collision.
I know. I'm trying to be the AEW marketer here, going against with what you're saying. But you're spot on, like 100%. I said the same thing, dude. I said the match shouldn't have happened. I was saying this last week. And hopefully, Danielson doesn't come out and then we can stretch it out and actually build to something, right? But instead, they gave us the match. And on top of that, do you notice Nigel just doesn't have it anymore? Yeah, he looks great for his age, don't get me wrong. Right? Looks great. But it felt like all he was doing was lariat after lariat after lariat. How many clotheslines did he do in that match? It felt like at least 20. You know what I mean? He really.
To be fair, that was Nigel McGuinness 15 years ago. Nigel never had this spectacular hard-hitting offense. Bryan was the one that did all that. Nigel was the heel that just made Bryan bleed.
For sure. No, I agree. And I'm another one that remembers that feud back then and semi-fondly. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I was completely into it. And it didn't make Ring of Honor at all. That was CM Punk and the Summer of Punk that really put him on the map. All right, that's a fact. But Vet, what was your thoughts on the match? Do you agree with what we're saying? I mean, this was so overhyped.
Well, in a way, I mean, the way I'm just looking at it, the only way I can look at it is I really don't think that Bryan cared about the match itself, other than I think Nigel, it's just he wanted to go out on his own terms, probably. Which I can understand. Right. So I don't mind. The match they had was fine. They didn't do anything dangerous, really, like comparatively. So it was fine. They did what they could, but so I didn't mind it. Yes, could they have done more to get people interested? Yes, but no matter what they would have done, nobody would have been happy with it. It's just it could only have kind of been this without getting into people getting uncomfortable territory. So it's fine. If this is how Nigel wanted to just, okay, this I can, this I can do, like I can do this one match and then I can retire, I'll just do one more because I want it to be Bryan or whatever, then whatever. And I think Bryan would have been more than happy to give him that. So they did it. There you go. You got your quote unquote dream match for the people that have been following along and like these guys. That's just how I look at it. I'm not worried about, too much of anything else. But yes, Nigel does tap out, like you said. And then Christian comes out and he's going to sign the contract. Because I guess now with the rules of this Money in the Bank contract is that the minute you sign it is when it takes effect and the match starts, right? So before he can sign it with his pen, Kip Sabian runs and steals his pen. So now, no title match.
That's so stupid, dude. How many guys at this point, Vet, is number one contenders? It feels like a whole bunch of dudes are number one contenders for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. So whatever, man.
Yeah, being the number one contender does not guarantee you that you will be the next in line. I mean, we saw that happen to Pac, right? Like he was supposed to, yeah, he was supposed to, get a title shot, but he had to wait his turn. So anyway,
Yeah, no,
so that happened.
it's true, man.
So next we got Hook versus Roderick Strong. And it is FTW rules, of course. The Undisputed Kingdom politely does not just jump Hook right from the start, and the three of them just kick the shit out of him. That was very nice of them to not do that, but we will find out like a little bit more about that later. But yes, this match had a kendo stick in it, so I disavowed it. Basically, it didn't take place. It hurts, because I like Hook. I don't like disavowing his matches, but unfortunately, the appearance of kendo stick means it technically didn't happen. It was a non-sanctioned in my brain. So I don't know, Jimmy. Did you have any thoughts on the match?
Yeah, it was a decent match, I guess. I mean, yeah. Look, I thought Strong really made Hook earn his win, if you know what I mean. But yeah, was this a no disqualification match? Like you said, it wasn't, right?
FTW.
FTW rules.
Oh, so that means no rules. Fine, okay, whatever. So there was kendo stick. That's about it. They whacked each other pretty hard, but now I guess it's no more. No more FTW championship. It's going to be
Right.
retired from this day forth. I mean, Jargo, what are your thoughts on the match first of all, and what do you think of the championship in general? Was it right for AEW to use it as long as they did, or just one too many belts?
Well, I feel like they could lose at least half of the belts in the company, and they would still have too many
An
belts.
understatement.
So
Right.
if we're going to start getting rid of belts, that should be Hook's new gimmick. He wins a championship and retires it. Like that would be a fantastic gimmick. I'm totally down with that. One of the better Hook matches, but not to be surprised by that because he was in there with Roderick Strong. The Undisputed Kingdom is flat. It's dead. Without Adam Cole, nobody cares.
With Adam Cole, nobody cares.
Also true. They've done nothing with anybody else inside of the faction other than Roddy yelling at people. It's fine. It's fine. I'm happy that we have one less trinket to carry around because there's entirely too many trinkets.
Way too many trinkets. That's a fact. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can move on, Vet. I mean, we all gave our thoughts.
Yeah,
It was a
so
decent
yeah.
match. Good for Hook.
Yeah, Hook thanked everybody and retired the belt and gave his dad a hug, and there we go. We move on.
That was nice.
But I do. You bring that up. I do feel like that hurts Hook. Like Hook is supposed to be like this cool, I don't give a fuck kind of character, and it kind of felt like they were turning him into a white meat pandering babyface, and that's not the direction to go with Hook.
No, and they haven't gone in the right direction. I mean, it's the more they try when I don't have time to go into a thing, but the short version is the best way to be a babyface in 2024. What is it, guys? Everybody say it. Be a heel. So
be a heel, yeah.
When somebody starts getting traction because they're being a good heel, wrestling companies take that to mean, oh, we got to turn them, which it's like, no, there is no turn. People just cheer and you keep doing what you do. When Hook started being a babyface and selling more, people started losing interest. Also, they took him off TV for an ungodly length of time, but whatever, that's basically what it is. So you're absolutely right. He should be way cooler than this. But what can you do? So yeah, and this explains, like, there was some sportsmanship after the match. Like, he shook hands with Roderick Strong instead of them jumping him. So that kind of explains why they didn't just jump him from the start and kick the shit out of him the whole time. So at least that, while it still doesn't necessarily make sense, it did cover the bases that way. Next is the reformed, reunited Empire, I guess you could say, versus the EVPs. Yeah. My only note for this one, Jargo, is you should have used the screwdriver, kid.
Right? Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much. I feel like, we have the Jericho vortex. I kind of feel like we're now starting to get the Osprey vortex. where it's like anybody that we can affiliate with Will Ospreay, we're going to affiliate with Will Ospreay because Ospreay is the only thing that we're doing that's working. So we're just trying to bring as much into it as we possibly can. This was a good match that had absolutely no drama for me. I did not think for 1 second that Ospreay and the United Empire, Kyle Fletcher, that they were going to win this match. And that is the problem with AEW as a whole. There's no drama in any of this. You look through the entire week of AEW, and I think there was one match that we didn't know who was going to win before the match started. That's the problem with AEW. It's a movie that you already know the end of the movie before you start watching it, and they're just not even making a good movie.
And even when there's inherently drama built in, like with Danielson and McGuinness, or any of the other things that they have, that's just like, look, you got all the stuff, all the work is already done for you. You just got to present it. And there's still still a veneer of phoniness and artificiality that, this was WWE's problem for so long, the past 15 years, just nothing matters. Everything is just the next thing, and let's move on. And we don't have time to really, sink our teeth into this. We just got to get this over with and move on. Take some time with some of this stuff. But I don't know. What about you, Jimmy? Did you think for a second? Oh, sorry. You're
partners with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Is it really that hard to get footage of this entire relationship between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay? Like, could we build that up maybe just a little bit more so that you would really care when Fletcher, goes for the screwdriver? It's just there's way too much ambiguity inside of AEW with half-told stories. That's pretty much the way AEW feels to me.
I'll answer that question. Number one, if I was New Japan, I wouldn't give them anything. Number two, I watched that whole New Japan run with him and Fletcher, and I didn't get the sense that they were best friends.
No.
So, okay, well, I mean, there was nothing they could have shown us that would have done any good anyway. But that's the thing. We're just taking them at their word.
The United Empire, though, like you could at least show me a still frame of the two of them in the ring celebrating together, so that that they're friends. Don't just tell us, show us.
Yeah.
No. Facts. All we know is that they used to live together. Apparently, they used to live together. That's how they're best friends. Whoopity whoop, right?
Wow.
There's a bit of an age gap too between the two of them. To be fair, Fletcher's pretty young compared to Ospreay. Not that Ospreay is older, not by much. Like he's 30 years old, isn't he? At this point, or is he over 30?
Yeah, I think he's just right around there, give or take.
I'm pretty sure
just turned 30, maybe.
Right.
But how's Mark Davis going to feel about this when he eventually comes back?
Hey, I hate to say it. I think the best thing to ever happen to Fletcher was actually Davis getting hurt. No shit. I truly believe that. Which sucks for Davis, but...
Well, let me tell you the worst thing to happen to the conglomeration, and that is Rocky Romero being added to it officially. This hurts my feelings. I'm trying to enjoy the conglomeration, but they're doing everything they can to make me not. The word of the day is vociferous. And in the terms of show, don't tell, I will show a little something I picked up recently just for everybody here.
Really?
If you see here, you have the limited edition of Dem Boys.
Nice. Where's that from?
Yeah. Couldn't pass that one up. It's a Ring of Honor. It's a Ring of Honor. I think this is from the dog collar match. So
awesome with FTR.
I think so. Yes. Thankfully, FTR not included. I don't want the value to depreciate.
They're too busy hanging out with the what are those jackasses called?
The Outrunners.
The Outrunners. I wanted to say Blade Runners, and I knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Come on, the Outrunners are great, Jargo. Come on now.
The Outrunners.
Stop it.
Don't be a wet blanket, Jargo. Come on. They're the youngest men alive. So Prince Nana comes out for he wants to give us an update on Swerve, and he says that emotionally he's okay, but physically he's not. And then we get a surprise, one of the few surprises. MVP appears.
Shocked me.
Yeah, he he evaluates Swerve's management team and offers his own services, or more specifically, he says he wants to talk business, and everybody says, "Oh," because remember he was in a group called the Hurt Business guys. Remember?
People are stupid,
remember?
man. Come on.
Remember when a guy had a group of guys that was a business? All right, Jimmy, MVP.
I'm happy to see him because I felt like WWE didn't really use him well, considering the last couple of years, especially. So I'm happy for MVP to make an appearance. But does this mean that Swerve is going to push aside Nana and maybe be MVP's sort of lackey, if you want to call him that? Not lackey, but you know what I'm saying. Because I feel bad for Nana if they're going that way, and I think they will be because Swerve right now, surely, what is he? Is he a heel? Is he a face? I have no idea at this point, right? Because I really don't. I actually have no idea. If anyone could tell me, that'd be nice. But yeah, does this mean they push aside Nana and we go on with MVP and Swerve? And one more thing, there's no Hurt Business going to start, and if it is, what are they going to call it? The business? I mean, come
the
on.
pain business.
You know what I mean?
Before Jargo chimes in, I just would like to say a couple of things. Number one, you asked if Swerve is a heel. Well, I told you to be a heel or to be a babyface, you got to be a great heel.
Face, right.
And he wasn't a babyface until he broke into Adam Page's home and threatened his child. So he's obviously a babyface. Two, I wouldn't worry about Prince Nana's management because apparently Swerve signed a huge contract. So I guess everything's going fine. But Jargo, what do you think?
That's a very valid point. I feel like what's more likely is we're going to be stuck with a 6-month-long feud between Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland. I mean, that's where I feel like it's going. I don't think they're going to ditch Nana. I think that would actually probably be better. Like, I think I would like the pairing of MVP along with Swerve Strickland, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think Swerve is going to be the babyface. MVP is going to bring in Lashley as a monster heel, and we'll just let the two black guys beat each other up for the next 6 months because we don't have any other creative for them. So that's pretty much where it's going to go.
Will Hobbs is gone. We need another muscular black man.
Yep.
Actually, Hobbs is injured apparently. He must have got injured walking around Oakland since there's nothing there anymore. Not
injured is still gone. And yeah. What was this? Did you guys see the thing or hear about Bobby Lashley saying he wanted to do wrestling and MMA and boxing and water polo and several other things? Like all, is he even going to have time for a feud? Is he going to have time to beat up Swerve?
Good question. Are we assuming that Lashley's just going to jump ship? I mean, don't be surprised if he doesn't. Honestly, I expect him to, though. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't actually end up in AEW. But because let's be real, you know what they do with the big blokes, right? They end up jobbing out to everybody, to all the small guys. So I'm worried when it comes to Lashley because if they start jobbing him out to Swerve, go for it, man.
Oh, I was going to say good segue because the next thing we see is the short bus crossing the bridge.
Yeah. Oh, God. Right, yeah. Please, continue.
Okay. Speaking of short, that's a good segue because next is Yuka Sakazaki versus Mariah May. Now, this is where I'm going to disagree with Jargo. Not on this match. But he said that not for a second did he think that the United Empire was going to win that tag team match. And I thought for at least 2 or maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seconds that they might win it. But at 0 seconds did I think that Yuka Sakazaki was going to win this match. So, yeah, no drama here for me. But I don't know. What about you, Jargo? Did you any drama?
It was 6 minutes long, and that was at least 7 minutes too long. That's pretty much how I felt about it. I like Yuka Sakazaki as a talent. I hate her in AEW. Her entire presentation, the entire package, they really make her out to be the 9-year-old girl that Kenny Omega wrestled. Like that feels like that's her gimmick, and it's just awful. I have no desire to see her on my American television ever again. The only good thing about this match, as far as I was concerned, is we did get Mina Shirakawa back. which makes me happy. Although I have no idea what in the world they are going to do with this Mariah May versus Mina Shirakawa, or Mariah May with Mina Shirakawa. It all feels incredibly forced. Like, if they are just bringing in Mina Shirakawa for Toni Storm to beat on her way back to facing
That's
off with
what it
Mariah
is,
May,
Jargo.
then this is awful.
Right.
If we are actually going to get a split and we're going to get Mina Shirakawa versus Mariah May, then absolutely sign me up. At least the match should be good to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what we're going to get, Jargo. You know this. We got another Grand Slam coming up in February in Australia, funny enough, which I'm not sure why they're calling it Grand Slam. They're in the wrong city and the wrong month, by the way. But whatever, it is what it is. And apparently, actually, just quietly, I just want to touch on, I don't know if this is true or not. I should look up on this, but apparently the ticket sales, which doesn't surprise me, for the, what do you call it, the Grand Slam pay-per-view down here in Australia, are selling very bad. It's very slow, supposedly. So
Well, I
according
mean,
to
they
Meltzer.
blocked off
So,
3/4 of the stadium where they did Grand Slam of United
dude,
States.
how bad
So,
was it? Dude, but yeah, but this place fits 60,000 people, bro. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, and at least Arthur Ashe fit like 25,000, but it looked bad
and they
compared to all the
packed
other
8
years.
into it. Holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looked bad to, like, watching Dynamite and Collision, the way they blackened out the whole crowd. You know how empty and how bad that would have looked, because previous years they lit up the crowd because it was a sellout. You know what I mean? Especially the first one. So, I find that interesting, but they won't give up on doing that. They just tend to keep going and going for whatever reason. But that's AEW. Sorry, Vic, continue on, man.
Oh, yes. Well, so after the inevitable Storm Zero, Willow Nightingale prevents Mariah from any further belt beatings, and because we need to save some of that for Jeff Jarrett later. But yes, Mina does arrive, and she is very confused about her friend because she doesn't really like this new Mariah May, but it is her friend, and she hasn't done anything to Mina, so she just comes out and confusedly hugs her with a confused face. It's great. Speaking of confused, Jon Moxley. He's taking on Darby Allin here with the contendership on the line, I guess. So yeah. Let me run through basically what happens through the end of the show. Then I'll pitch to you guys. So at the end of the match, Marina jumps up on the apron to get just enough of a distraction to let Jon Moxley hit a super DDT after a 20-minute beating of Darby. And then Brian comes out with a necktie. If you know, you know. Here's the necktie. I'm gonna choke Jon Moxley with it. And then here comes Commander Party. And Isaiah is giving some receipts on Jon Moxley. He's like, "You're not gonna sell my punch? Sell this shit, bitch." And then Bryan Danielson says that Wrestle Dream, he will face Jon Moxley and he's going to kick his fucking head in. So war has been declared. Yep. That's his new catchphrase. Not as marketable for the families, but the people in the building seem to like it, whatever ones there are. And war has been declared, Jargo. War has been declared.
Yeah. Whoopity doo, right? I mean, that's pretty much how I feel about it. You said something earlier, Vet, that is so incredibly true and was on full display during this match. If you want to get over as a babyface, then you need to be a heel. And that's pretty much where Moxley is, right? Like, people are loving this Jon Moxley thing. And so you're not supposed to be loving the Jon Moxley thing. You're supposed to be booing Jon Moxley. He tried to murder Bryan Danielson on pay-per-view. Nope. Crowd totally into the whole Moxley thing. And I feel like this did more damage to Darby than anything else. Like, or are we actually going to make this part of the Darby Allin character now, where he can't beat Jon Moxley? Is that going to be part of the Darby Allin character? Because I'm fine with that, but I'm just not sure that I care if Darby Allin can beat Jon Moxley, because I like Jon Moxley more than I like Darby Allin. I still feel like Darby is that top of the second tier guy, and Moxley is the face of the franchise, right? Like Moxley is the franchise of All Elite Wrestling, for better or for worse, along with his wrestling style. And I feel like his wrestling style is the worst for AEW. But right now, it's really hard for me to think of a bigger babyface in the company than Jon Moxley. Like, we need to do with Jon Moxley what we did with Stone Cold Steve Austin. That very much feels like that should be the new Moxley character. Go out, be a heel, kick people's asses, and just run roughshod through the company. That's going to get more people into Jon Moxley and do terrible damage to his babyface opponents until we just swallow our pride and acknowledge Moxley is the babyface of the company.
Do you agree with that, Jimmy? Is Moxley the guy?
I can see where you're coming from, Jargo. Whether he's the guy of AEW. I mean, now that I think about it, who is the guy of AEW other than Moxley? When you really think about it, who would they like? Put Moxley aside, who would be the face of? It'll be Danielson, obviously, right? So I'm going to disagree for now, though, Jargo. I'm going to say that Danielson really is the face of the company right now.
But he's also on
his
he's on his retirement tour too.
Absolutely, but I'm telling you, this is when Moxley. If you feel that Moxley is the face of the company, I guarantee it wasn't done by design. I guarantee they wouldn't have even. That wasn't even their intentions, in my opinion, to have him as the face of the company.
And to be clear, Jon Moxley would not be my face of the company. It's just that's the way that he's presented. I mean, when you look at the worst WWE champions of all time, Dean Ambrose is in that like top 2 or 3 guys. And why is AEW failing? Because Jon Moxley is the face of your freaking franchise at this point, right? Like, I feel like this is part of the problem with AEW is that Moxley is on top.
Yeah, well, hopefully that doesn't happen either when they do have their matchup at Wrestle Dream. They should just call it Wrestle Cream at this point. But but as far as the match goes, and with Darby Allin, now it's no secret, me and the vet, we're big fans of Darby, but it makes him. My problem with Darby in this match, it makes him look like a dope. I mean, seriously, he puts his number 1 contendership on the line. It was pretty easy to convince him to put it on the line, which is even more stupid in my opinion, and he loses. You know what I mean?
I feel like
can't beat Moxley.
I feel like if it was anybody other than Darby, you could make that argument. But Darby putting his title shot on the line completely feels in line with the Darby Allin character, because Darby would feel like, if I can't beat Moxley, I have no business challenging for the title. Like, he was basically defending the title before he even got his title shot, and he lost. But it feels very in line with the Darby character. If it was anybody else on the roster, they would look like an absolute idiot. But it feels very in line with the Darby Allin character, because the Darby Allin character is an idiot.
There,
I see where you're coming from.
When guys like Darby Allin that are actually smart, even though his character's dumb. When you see how they're able to do whatever is right in the situation, that's what makes people a great worker. When we're talking about a great worker, it's, can you have the match you need to have? The reason that Will Ospreay is not a great worker is because he will have the same match no matter what is happening. He will do as many moves as he can, no matter where on the card he is, no matter what the push is, no matter what the angle is, no matter any of that, he will always have that match. Darby Allin, his job in this match was to lose to Jon Moxley, and he did it in a way that made sense to lose to Jon Moxley, not only to make Jon Moxley feel like, oh shit, this guy's a threat, this match wasn't even really close, Danielson's in big trouble. Darby didn't need to get all of his shit in and do a bunch of moves to John and have John sell it, which he doesn't anyway, so why bother? That's another reason Darby's smart. He knows John Moxley ain't gonna sell shit that I do, so why bother? Why don't I just sell, make him get over, get the angle over, get the company over? That's why Darby's a top guy, regardless of what people think about him, because he's that smart. Nobody else is smart enough to tell him that stuff. He just knows this. And if this was an isolated incident, I wouldn't see that. But I've been watching Darby since AEW started, and it's all the other things that he does and all the moments that he does them that make me go, okay, the kid gets it. So this right here was just another example of that. My question, though, to what Jargo says about John Moxley being the guy in the face of the company. So now at this stage, the next time we see John Moxley, he's going to be fighting for that championship. For this angle to work, he kind of needs to win it. Is the Danielson retirement tour already over? And was it worth sacrificing Swerve at the altar if this is where we were going? Did we just not want the optics of John Moxley stealing from an Australian skinhead movie beating a black man like this? Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes.
So retarded, bro.
Okay, so just switch it to
he is
Danielson.
exactly right.
Okay. So, these are the interesting things that I wonder how many other wrestling podcasts are going to talk about when they cover this shit. The questions that, I'm interested in knowing the answers to, even if we can't know the answers to them directly. But yeah, as far as the match goes, it was one of John Moxley's better matches because all he did was Darby Allin made him look like he was something. Most of the people that John Moxley has matches with aren't that good either. And so his shit looks like shit and they still have to sell it. And then when they do stuff to him, he doesn't sell it. So That's why all of his matches are terrible. But because it was Darby, he seemed like he looked really good in this. And like I said before, Darby's getting the angle over. So now I am curious as to see how AEW is going to handle this. Because it is quite a corner they painted themselves in. So we'll see.
There's a couple of obvious situations here. Either Moxley does win the championship, and then Jargo's right all along about being the face of the company, or does Darby Allin come in and save, Danielson from losing the championship? Because we know the Blackpool Combat Club, whatever they're called, are going to get involved, right? So
No, to me, that would be out of Darby's character, though. Darby coming in to help Danielson win doesn't make sense.
But then
Now, if
he's not
Darby comes
helping
in
Danielson,
after
though,
the match is over to save Bryan from getting beat down, that would make
That's
sense.
Darby,
But
right.
the Darby character would not interfere in an ongoing match.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's true. That's facts. But I'm not saying it for him to save Danielson, though. It's more because of Moxley for him to do it. You know what I mean? And himself, and then they continue on with their feud. Or does Moxley gets the championship, and then Darby wins the championship down the line off of Moxley and finally gets his win?
I feel like Darby should be Tommy Dreamer to Moxley's Raven. Darby should never beat John Moxley. That should be built into the Darby Allin character. And every time they fight, Darby is fighting from underneath, and everybody really wants to see Darby beat him, and he legitimately never does. The worst thing that ever happened to Tommy Dreamer was him beating Raven.
True. That was good times too back then. I mean, for what it was. I know you hate ECW vet, but but anyway.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, let me just clarify. For anybody that may be watching and accusing me of hating ECW or being a hypocrite, it's not that I didn't like ECW at the time. It's just with the benefit of hindsight and then becoming an active part of the wrestling business for however brief a period, I can see the irreparable lasting damage that ECW did to where we're at today. A lot of the things that we all complain about stem from there. So it's not like nobody could have known at the time that stuff was going to happen. They couldn't have known. So I don't blame any of them. It's not about that. I enjoyed ECW when I was a fan because I was like, look, what am I looking at? This is crazy. But now I look back, and see. So, yeah.
Todd Brantley says in the chat, calling it now, Shane helps Moxley win and BCC align with Shane. Yeah, I don't see that personally. But
I mean, I could see it. That doesn't mean that it'd be good. So, I mean, it does seem right up AEW's alley to do something stupid like that.
Matt, do you think that's a possibility?
Oh yeah. Well, I've been assured that Shane McMahon is helping his dad buy AEW, so that's probably where it's going to happen, right? Because they have such a great relationship, as the documentary pointed out, right? So
that would be such a great troll job. Like Vince McMahon would be like, yeah, Shane, I didn't buy you the UFC, but I will buy you this piece of shit.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad.
The King of 2K24 said Jimmy Moxley's not the face of company material. I am sorry he's not at that level Swerve is. Look, as far as star potential, he's way above Swerve in terms of
But that's entirely due to just his WWE time. Like anybody that spends time there gets that recognition, and that's what it is. If John Moxley had still been doing GCW up to this point, nobody would give a fuck about him. So
100%, and that's why they would use him as the face because of his WWE days, 100%. But yeah, that's it from me. So does that mean we're moving on to the Collision now?
We're moving on to Rampage real quick. So I'm going to run through this. Right. And because, damn it, if Jargo watched it, I'm going to at least make it worth his while for 4 minutes, 53 seconds. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through this. And if you guys have any comment, you just put your hand up. Otherwise, I'll just keep moving.
Rampage straight out.
You didn't? All right. So Jimmy will not have a hand up. Well, that's not true. You might have a question. You might have a question or need some clarification about what happened. So if that's the case, you could put your hand up. All right. Black and Buddy versus Action Rush. Action goes down. The Righteous watches on a monitor in the back, and then as a sore loser, Action takes action and tries to fight the guys that just beat him. He should have shown that much fight during the match, Jargo, but he didn't. So,
yeah, there was some things on Rampage that I have some things to say about. This was not one of them.
Got it.
Although I guess the only thing is, Malachi Black, there's a lot of reports that his contract is coming up, that he could be WWE bound, to which most people are going to say, who cares? I care only because Triple H was always an Aleister Black guy. And if we're going to get the Aleister Black presentation that Triple H always had in mind for him, then yeah, I could see him going back to WWE. I think they would absolutely love to have Brody King on a WWE roster. And you might as well bring Buddy along too, so Rhea has somebody to hang out with backstage. So yes, I'm calling it House of Black, all on their way to the WWE.
Well, they did want to get out of their contracts at one stage. They said it publicly too, if you remember. But Buddy just recently signed a new contract, and if my memory serves me right, I believe Malachi Black signed a 7-year deal about 5 years ago, it feels like, at this point. It was a long-term contract, something along those lines, and that's why they wouldn't release him.
Take the fucking money, kid. Take the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, yeah, and yeah, I'm sure that as long as Triple H's vision for Aleister Black could have been exactly what it was before, is just as long as they take the creaky noise away from him rising from the grave, then we'll be fine. Lexi is with Anna Jay. She's back from Japan. And then we get Anna Jay versus Robin Renegade. And I watched this match because I was like, all right, back from Japan, Anna Jay. Let's see. She had the same orange problem that Nigel McGuinness has, but nonetheless, as I watched the match, as it was over, I was like, if I was back doing a practice with Rip Rogers and he told these two to get in the ring and they had this match, he would have been like, okay, next two, which is probably the highest compliment he would have given at that time, not to ring the bell and interrupt them in the middle of their match and tell them to get the fuck out because they're rotten whores. So yeah, it was all right, but it was very much a wrestling practice match. Good job to everyone. And Anna moves to 9th all time in women's wins with this. So congratulations.
Wow.
All right. We get a little clip of Renee sitting down with Will Ospreay and Ricochet. Is there? Jargo has something. Yeah. The question is there jealousy here? Jealousy between these men? Jargo, is there jealousy?
AEW has 6 fucking hours of television to fill every week. And they show me a 30-second tease of something that's actually kind of interesting and direct me to their goddamn YouTube channel.
You were saying this.
You couldn't air 9 minutes of Ricochet and Ospreay sitting down and having a conversation. You couldn't break that into 3-minute segments and weave it throughout the show to keep people interested in what's going on. Instead, you give me Konosuke Takeshita versus fucking Angelico for 10 goddamn minutes with a commercial break in the middle of it. You can't show me 9 minutes of storyline development. You want me to go watch it on your fucking YouTube channel where you make $0 and 0 cents. Instead, you give me fucking Angelico, who I didn't even realize was still under contract. Angelico versus Konosuke Takeshita. This is everything wrong with AEW in a span of about 30 damn seconds. I was livid watching this. I sent Jimmy like a whole tirade of a text message. It's just unbelievable to me that we can't find a place for that on our TV show, but you can give me Robin Renegade versus Anna Jay. You can give me fucking Angelico. That's right. His first name is fucking Angelico versus Konosuke Takeshita. You can give me, what was that first piece of shit match that we had? The House of Black versus Leo Rush and Action Andretti. That shit can go on for 9 minutes, but you can't show me this 9-minute video package with the fucking Black Panther and Will Ospreay with Renee Paquette. Unbelievable, man. Unfreaking believable.
And yet somehow very believable. Well, I guess that's a good segue into the next match, which is Takeshita versus fucking Angelico. Surprising no one, Takeshita wins with a move called the Raging Fire, which I'm not sure if that's like a move that a Japanese person would name a move, or if that's a move that a white person would assume that a Japanese person in Japanese wrestling would name a move. But either way, it's some kind of move. And he wins with it.
I feel like that hurt Takeshita. It hurts Takeshita that it takes him 10 minutes to beat fucking Angelico. You look at Takeshita like he should be one of your like top 5 guys, right? But it takes him 10 minutes to beat Angelico? This should have been a 3-minute match. With entrances, 3 minutes.
He's right.
Well, you never know when you're going to get a match on the card, so you got to like really stretch your legs and pull time just to make sure that you get some good exercise in.
Fucking Angelico, man. Like, how is that dude still getting paid?
Yeah,
he never really left. He's just not on television.
Only his tag partner got the flick.
Well, one of them did, but he's been with Serpentico longer than he's been with Jack Evans or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Jack Evans. That's the name.
Wait, are you telling me Serpentico is not Jack Evans? Because I just kind of assumed.
Really?
Jack. You know what's funny? Side note, yeah. Last time I saw Jack Evans, he was on. It was still called Impact then, and he was like weirdly jacked, like jackeder than he's ever been. And he was like sweating during his match. And I thought he was going to have a heart attack because of all the gas he was on. But apparently he made it through alive. I think he's still alive. I think he still works in Mexico sometimes. But yeah, he's been gone from AEW for quite some time. And Serpentico, I think, is. Yeah, so. But anyway, nobody cares about that. The Acclaimed versus Fancy Clancy and TJ Crawford. Was this more worth your time than fucking Angelico or less worth your time? And
I'm
what
not even sure. I don't even know the answer to that question.
yeah.
Like, I would really have to stop and think about that one. The positive is it only went 2 minutes, which is how
Right.
long it should have taken Takeshita to beat fucking Angelico.
Yes. Well, in a shocking upset, the Acclaimed pull off the win in this match, and the people were about to riot. Like you could tell they were very mad about this. Fancy Clancy is their guy, and yeah, of all people, after the match during the post-match promo, of all people, the Acclaimed or Max Caster in particular see fit to gay shame MXM collections. Which
What the fuck was up with that?
Is this not the kettle calling the kettle the kettle? But then MXM collection pops up on the Tron, and yes, the makeover is on for tomorrow, meaning last night, meaning Collision. So we're gonna see what happened to that jacket, but we're not there yet. And then the main event, of course, Willow Nightingale versus Taya Valkyrie. Taya has yellow hair. No, not blonde. Yellow.
I like it. Yeah, yellow is just off.
Yeah,
man.
she's blonde in the sense that Big Bird is blonde. And then Willow hits with the Dr. Bomb. A worthy main event for former CMLL Women's Champion Willow Nightingale. But not really much that you would call up your friend and say, hey, you got to turn this on right now. I don't think. So
That's Rampage in a nutshell, right?
it is. It wasn't even Grand Slam Rampage. It was just the worst Rampage, like as a regular Rampage.
I can't believe they did 6 hours of TV in the one night at the place, man. I would have felt so sorry for the people at Arthur Ashe. God damn it, people.
I can't believe they did Taya Valkyrie versus Willow, and that went 10 fucking minutes, and you still couldn't show me the sit-down interview between Ospreay and Ricochet. 10 minutes for Taya Valkyrie and Willow.
You get another 30 seconds of it right here on Collision. So
yeah, just another tease in case you didn't. Apparently, people did not go to the YouTube channel, so I think they took a second try. I will say that sitting and listening to Ricochet and Will Ospreay talk for 10 minutes would not be my preferred two guys, but still,
I would rather listen to them talk than watch Willow and Taya for 10 minutes.
I'm still not sure, but let's see if Collision gives us a chance to. If Collision gives us a chance to make up for that. It's Collision Grand Slam, and it's Saraya rules, guys. And so there was a new rule added right before this match started, and that is the match can only start when Saraya slaps Jamie Hayter in the face. Okay, so Jamie Hayter hears this and says, sticks her chin out like, "Come on, bitch, do it." Puts her hands behind her back, and then of course, she does get slapped eventually after a couple of little shenanigans or whatever, and then she has the nerve to make this face after she gets. Like as if to say, I can't believe you slapped me as you said you had to and that I let you. But, yeah. At least this match was short. This might have been shorter. When I looked at the time, this might have been shorter than any of the matches from Rampage, actually.
And it was 12 minutes. This match was 12 minutes long.
Was it really?
And that includes entrances. That includes entrances, and the little walk and talk at the beginning with the new rule.
What happened to Jamie Hayter? Because I know you've been watching Jamie Hayter for a long time because you follow Japanese professional wrestling, and I've seen Jamie Hayter for a long time because I follow Japanese professional wrestling. This repackage of Jamie Hayter, totally not working for me at all. I don't like all the colors. I don't like the cut of the gear. I don't like the music. I don't like the hair. I don't like anything about Jamie Hayter's presentation at this point. It's just, she feels so incredibly bland to me ever since she's returned.
Jimmy, she lost all her muscle mass and started dressing like a piece of furniture in Boogie Nights.
It's true. No, she did. She's lost all her muscle mass. She's just why is she even going with the Becky Lynch look at this point? You know what I mean? she's got nothing to
And
her,
the Joe
man. I mean,
and
who
the
is she right
Joshi
now?
cut on her gear and the colors, and it's awful.
She's not the
Awful.
same. She's nowhere near the same. Her original version was more like her Japanese look. You know what I mean? This right here, I have no idea what the hell. I don't even know what they're thinking with her. Where do we go with her at this point? Because right now, she does not feel like the star that everybody was claiming and making out that she was in her first run. And to be fair, she got pretty, pretty high up on the food chain in terms of the women's division. But now she's just a shadow of her old self. She lost too much weight too, man. I feel like, you know what I mean? She needs to gain a bit of weight, whether that's muscle or just weight in general. Just and color your hair back to blonde, please. Like for crying out loud.
Well,
Don't
we'll
go
see if she does any of those things, which she can.
red.
I assume she lost the muscle mass because after she got injured, she probably didn't need to be on the gas anymore, so she stopped taking it, and then she stopped working out because she was injured. So it's going to take her a little bit to get it back up, and she probably doesn't want to be too obvious about it, so she's probably going to slowly do it, But that's just my guess.
So.
And the hair, you could do that anytime, so,
Well, no doubt, man.
But I think
she's for now.
Yeah, I think she's definitely just trying to fill that Becky Lynch void, as some people have, mentioned, including us.
Zane with the comment. It's a tribute to Mike.
It's a tribute to Mike Awesome. Yeah, that 70s gal.
Yeah.
So we get another one of those little teasers for Will and Rick, and then we get the Tornado Trios conglomeration.
Oh boy, there it is.
Versus the Learning Tree. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but as much as I love Mark Briscoe and will just, whatever he's doing, I eat it. I eat it up. But I kind of thought this was settled with the 1v1 Jericho and Orange Cassidy. Like, we don't now do the Schmaz team-up match to settle the feud that was already settled. But what do I know? I'm just some guy. But Jericho does pin Mark Briscoe and then makes the belt motion, the discount double check motion, saying, I'm going to be he was already the Ocho, so now he would be the, whatever.
It's 9 in Spanish.
The Nueve.
the Nueve champion, I guess. And why would you want the Ring of Honor championship again now?
Because there's nothing too small or too big or whatever for Chris Jericho to ruin.
Well, since the For the World Championship has been retired, he has to find a different worthless belt to go chase.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
Jericho. I'm so done with him, man, at this point. Honestly, just go away for a little bit. Does he have a Fuzzy concert to do?
Probably, but he works around it, so,
Whatever, man.
I mean, if Chris Jericho ever slowed down, he'd have to spend time with himself or his family, so he's got to keep busy, And I understand.
And thank you, Todd. I definitely do know the answer, of course.
Yeah, we all know the answer.
It's AEW.
Okay, so here's Brody versus Action, and the Righteous Attack, Top Flight comes out. It's a bunch of stuff. I don't really think there's much we need to say about this. We've already complained about these guys in earlier segments. The short bus pulls up. It took several days to cross that bridge and get to town, apparently.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, New York traffic, man. I mean,
right, man.
That might be the most realistic thing that we saw on AEW TV this week.
But he was traveling at night, though, man.
Do you still have to pay the tolls with coins? Because I could see somebody as young as Jack Perry never having had to handle change.
He got us there, bit. Oh shit.
Anyway, so Lil Brooks Jensen comes to the arena with his TNT championship. He's all ready. He's waiting for his opponent, and who is it? But it's the king of pro wrestling, Minoru Suzuki. And I was like,
happy to see.
Yeah, I was for a second until I realized what I was going to have to watch. Yeah, but
exactly.
But I was like, well, at least what we'll get the normal American Minoru Suzuki match, which is he will beat the shit out of a guy for as long as he is told or deems necessary, and then he will fall over. So that's basically exactly what happened here. And luckily, and surprisingly to me, They didn't even he didn't just beat him with his shitty finish. He actually hit his finish into the stairs to knock Suzuki out for a 10 count. So at least there was that. At least we didn't have to suffer the indignity of this legend getting his shoulders pinned by, this Raven wannabe. So that was all right. But then he decided to continue the beating, and then a foreshadowed person appears to make the save. Jargo's favorite unretired wrestler, Katsuyori Shibata.
How many issues do I have with this one? Boy. So Suzuki in his AEW career, for anybody keeping track, is now 2-11. 2-11 is his AEW record over the course of his tenure there. I was surprised to find that he actually had 2 wins. I loved Minoru Suzuki. I still to this day check underneath of my bed for Minoru Suzuki to make sure that I can sleep at night.
The murder grandpa.
So my best friend Chris Jericho called Minoru Suzuki murder grandpa on an episode of Dynamite, and it was the highlight of my life. This infuriates me in so many different ways. That the relationship between Katsuyori Shibata and Minoru Suzuki, what are they doing? Suzuki should want to murder Katsuyori Shibata on sight for the rest of his life. Katsuyori Shibata should be looking over his shoulder for Minoru Suzuki. Instead, he comes and he saves Suzuki, and they handshake and they embrace each other in the middle of the ring after Suzuki has just lost to fucking Jungle Boy. This is why I don't watch Collision, is shit like this. I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
Makes no sense at all. And you know what the thought process was? Oh yeah, we'll get another Japanese guy to help the Japanese guy, basically. You know what I mean? That's what I think the thought process is. And to tell me how one-sided is this relationship, dude? When you think about it, I'm talking about the AEW and New Japan relationship. AEW have absolutely robbed New Japan in every sense too.
That's the thing. Suzuki isn't even a New Japan talent anymore. I couldn't tell you the last time Minoru Suzuki wrestled in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
It's been a long time.
I don't understand it. And somehow he is still over. He is 2-11 through his AEW career, and the place still goes crazy when Suzuki comes out. That should tell you something. But instead, you're using Minoru Suzuki to try to get over Jungle Boy? This is so insulting in so many different ways that I can't even put together a completely logical thought.
No.
It's sad. It's sad.
And this is all just lamenting the use of Japanese talent, and we're not even scratching the surface of why the scapegoat gimmick even exists in the first place and how it has cost this company untold amounts of money. But
it really has. That's the funny thing.
Who cares?
Their ratings were down year to year for Grand Slam last year. Their ratings were down 33% for Collision this year. 33%. You know why? Jack Perry. That's it. Jack Perry.
Point, man.
Lost a third of your audience because of Jack Perry.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. This company, man, is something else.
Yeah. Well, cry me a river, guys, because guess what? It's Trios title time. This is the match we all came to see. It's the club versus the party. So, yeah. With the non-committal Wheeler Yuta here doing his existential crisis thing. But he actually does snap out of it and win the match for the team with the cattle mutilation. It's like, damn it. If I have to team with you guys, I'm at least stealing Bryan Danielson's move because he's my friend. We're not going to get any footage of me like actually talking to him, like whenever he's in the building, or like, you know, we're not going to interact in any way, or, you know, no one's going to interview me and ask me. Like Marvez is going to ask me like questions, but they won't have anything to do with Danielson or anything relevant.
Well, the last time they tried doing that, he started crying, remember?
Yeah, he just couldn't. As the kids say, I can't even. So that's what he couldn't even. So that's fine. You know, I was telling Jimmy Jargo that, you know, what they've tried to do with Wheeler Yuta now would be working if they didn't try to push him like Daniel Garcia and all these other guys that didn't deserve a push on top for so long before. Like if he had just been the doormat for the Blackpool Combat Club and never won any matches and was always getting berated and beaten up and all this other stuff, then when he finally, like when they cross the line and they go too far and Yuta snaps, now it's earned. Now people are super behind him because they've been waiting for him to do something besides be a doormat for the entire 2 years or whatever it's been and all this other stuff. Unfortunately, we did get a strong Wheeler Yuta push this whole time. He's won multiple championships and it's just not that exciting anymore. So
yeah, I don't
bad.
understand why. I still to this day see absolutely nothing in Wheeler Yuta. Absolutely nothing.
But you could have seen him in a role, you know, like if it was something like this for a story, he would have been a guy to fit that story, but they didn't tell it right. And there you go. Because a guy that's so many guys that are painfully small, you know, get put in these roles where they go over while all these big guys are just like, I don't know, I'm Brian Cage. I lose every match. Like, so it tends to like not mean anything after a while, you know?
If you take Japanese style booking, Wheeler Yuta was put into the Blackpool Combat Club to eat pins. That was literally the only reason that I could see him inside of the Blackpool Combat Club. He's Bushi to LIJ. Like if Bushi's in the match, you know Bushi's eating the pin. That's very much the way I always felt about Wheeler Yuta. I feel like he was the designated Blackpool Combat Club jobber. And instead, they've tried to push him and turn him into a star, and it's went over like a fart in church.
And also, Wheeler Yuta makes Bushi look like Batista. Or
Yes.
maybe a more relevant and timely reference would be Wheeler Yuta looks like Batista now, and Bushi looks like Batista 2006.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Bushi's the man. Just quiet.
He's a real man with real mist.
Yeah, Bushi is the man, and his winning record is worse than Minoru Suzuki's.
That sucks, but Bushi's so good though, man. Like I love his whole just the look and everything about Bushi. He's on a whole
Nobody eats a pin better than Bushi.
Delicious pin. Is that what all that mist in his mouth is from all the pin eating? Like
There
it's
you go.
just all that mist is just chewed up pins. I get it now. It took this long. Thanks, Jargo. This is why I'm glad you're on the show with this, because I can always still learn. You know, we can all learn something from anyone.
Well, and that's why he wears a mask so he doesn't embarrass his family with the number of losses that he takes. And like at a certain point, he was getting beat so often that he had to start wearing two masks. I mean, like,
And then what about the suits?
Oh, the suits.
Oh yeah, but you only bust out the suits when you're doing a job to a main event talent.
That's right.
True.
That's right.
Good point.
So speaking of doing jobs, the Outrunners have a video here, and they get a little bit carny. Well, literally, because they're at a carnival playing games on VHS. Now, say what you will.
I want to know how they played the tape, though. How did they play the tape when Saraya busted the VCR over Jamie Hayter's head?
You're right. I guess
True. That did happen.
maybe they transferred it over to.
I mean, they
digital.
found the last VCR in the United States and they broke it.
Damn.
They couldn't
So,
transfer it to USB.
Yeah. Well, with all due respect to everyone involved, this is how you do a VHS thing. You hear that, Wyatt Six? This is how you do VHS. So
why at 6? Where have they been lately?
yeah,
Just quietly.
we got what we wanted out of them, a wrestling match.
Exactly.
Time to move on. Well, it wouldn't be Collision without Hologram. And he's taking on Dralistico, if you may remember him. And who's the third guy, Jimmy? Jimmy, who's the third guy in the match?
Oh man. Wait a minute. Let me just set this up because it's
none other than
That's right. The Beast Mortos.
Love Mortos.
Yes. Mortos is our favorite wrestler, Jargo. But unfortunately,
he's getting over.
Yeah,
he is getting over. Like I never thought that,
bro. He is.
I never thought that somebody wearing that getup would get over in the United States, and he has proved me wrong. Like he is absolutely getting over with the fan base, and good for Mortos. And I thought this was the highlight of the entire week inside of AEW because we actually got something coming out of this. I'm not sure that it's going to be good, but it's surely not going to be any worse than what they already were doing.
Well, how many resets have we done with LFI at this point?
Well, it's better than Roosh with Don Callis because that made zero logical sense. I like the Roosh, Dralistico, and the Beast Mortos. Like, I can get behind that as, a little lucha faction. The only problem is we probably won't see them on our TV again for at least like 10 weeks. And by then we will have already
100%.
forgotten about it. But like
100%.
This could be something really, really cool. It won't be because it's AEW, but it could be.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to go MIA again. You know what I mean? And then we're going to forget that it even happened. But one thing about Mortos, though, boys, what is it that's getting him so over, man? The guy just gets it. He's got charisma without actually really doing much.
Yeah, he's a great worker.
There.
I mean, like, what is there not to like about the Beast Mortos other than, once you get past the cheesy gimmick, right? Like when you first see him, you're just like, oh God, what are we doing? Is this like Manitar all over again? But he can work, he can go. And like you said, it's the charisma. He doesn't have to say anything. He's got like, the cane head tilt, like the fans are connecting with the Beast Mortos.
But it's even
great. It could be really cool. I kind of like the idea of him in LFI.
Me too, absolutely. First is with the Undisputed Kingdom for some reason, but we're gonna forget that even happened. But what I do love is his interviews, dude. You got to listen to his interviews because all it is that's it. It's fucking
so
brilliant.
What you're saying is he's doing a Tama Tonga impression?
Well, yeah, not exactly, but still, you know what I mean. It's a
he's a
way of talking.
He's a bull, not a gorilla.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Well, you know what they say. If you
true.
mess with the bull,
you get the horns. Yes. You get the Thomas the
and now
Hitman
we know
horns.
why they put him in LFI. Yeah. There you go.
Is he more over though, boys, than when he was Taurus?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
I believe he is too.
I think so.
Yes, because people still like no matter what anybody wants to act like, this show still gets like 5 times the viewers that Impact ever would. So well, and they just jobbed him out anyway. They didn't do anything. I was watching Impact for his entire run with Decay and everything. I don't remember if he ever won a single match ever. And he was in some matches that he could have won. So whatever disrespect they showed him, I feel like he learned at least to make the most of his time, and that's sort of polished him up to where he's at now. I mean, even if you just look at because the fans don't know like what a good worker is, right? A lot of the time, like the smart fans, like HMG fans do, but like not like the average people. So they think they know what they like. But he's different just because he does have a cool mask. I mean, the gimmick you may think is cheesy, but the mask is fucking intricate and detailed and cool. It's not just like another piece of spandex. And, he's also the luchador that's, even though he can do it, he's not out there flipping around like everybody else is. So he just stands out by being different.
Which impresses me.
Right. Yeah, and then all the stuff that you guys already said. So it's just a big potpourri of stuff that helps him get over. But not in this match because Hologram's got to do that weird roll up thing that he does, which I'm just tired of seeing that. It's not getting him over. And then
is the hologram thing now, working though? I mean, like they are investing so much in this guy, and
his last 3 matches, it's gone backwards. I think like they're overdoing it now. You know what I mean? Give him a loss for crying out loud, man. No one cares anymore.
Well, it's not that. It's that he's the third man in a 6-man tag, or he's the third man in a 3-way match like this, or the fact that he's beating somebody with a fucking cradle thing instead of like a high flying cool move like he beat guys with the first. He was using like a sort of like a F5 Michinoku driver thing or so, just something that looked kind of cool, and then he just started beating people with this weird cartwheeling roll up thing, and I don't think that's helping. So his legend is slowly decreasing over time, and they're not striking while the iron's hot. The iron's getting cold,
and there's no connection with the fan base because the way the hologram mask is constructed, you can't get any facial expression. And I mean, when you look at the good luchadors,
it looks like a burn victim to me, Jargo.
Well, I mean, when you look at good luchadors, like Rey Mysterio could emote through the mask, right? Like even the Beast Mortos. There's guys talking about how he has so much charisma. Well, the guy can't talk and he's wearing a mask. How can he have charisma? He knows how to emote through the mask. I mean, even the greatest luchador of all time, El Generico, he knew how to emote through the mask. The way the hologram mask is constructed, it doesn't matter what that dude does, his face isn't changing. It's kind of like Axiom in NXT. There's no connection. There's like this natural wall between the talent and the audience. And there's no way for the audience to invest because you can be kicking the shit out of hologram. He can't even sell because his face never moves. You never know if the kid is in pain. You never know if he's getting fired up. There's something missing there. And I think the problem is the mask.
And the roll up.
And the roll up, yes.
Because Axiom, like you said, Axiom's mask completely covers his face and he can show no expression. However, because he has body language and because when he does his on cameras, he has a dry wit and sense of humor and a personality, it makes it work. So
and it also works in the tag team because Nathan Frazier emotes like crazy. So he can just be standing on the outside selling what Axiom is doing in the ring and it still works. I don't think it would work if Axiom was a single.
It might. I mean, because that's how I felt. That's how I felt it was. It's just Axiom just acts like a guy without a mask. He just happens to be wearing a mask. But most mask guys are like silent. Like because you're wearing a mask, I can't even ask you a question as a backstage reporter, so I won't bother, which is ridiculous. But anyway, yes, Roosh. The losers of this match start to fight each other, and then Roosh separates them and brings them together. And then they all attack Hologram. So, there you go. That's what you get, Hologram.
Hologram attacked them first, to be fair. So,
Oh, well, I mean, whatever.
Because there's nothing more babyface than striking first.
Nope.
Right.
Well, he's trying to he's trying to get over. He's trying to be a heel. So
all it does is make Mortos, for example, even more over. He's becoming Teflon. Even though he loses all the time, it almost doesn't matter. His legend is growing every match.
That's right. Well, here's somebody whose legend is not growing. Chris Statlander.
Eesh. Yeah.
Also, no Stokely.
Yeah, what's up with that? Where's Stokely? What's going on there?
I don't know.
Makes no sense, man. Yeah, I've got nothing to say about that other than where's Stokely. Right.
All right. All right, well, how about this? It's MXM collection time.
Oh,
we're going to get a very special fashion walk, and we're going to unveil the jacket finally. Yes, with Hans. Hans modeling the new jacket, which has a heart cut on the front of it. And it's just a wonderful job, except for it turns out that Hans is none other than daddy ass. And then he beats up everybody and the Acclaimed run out and there's a schmoz. And yeah, so Jargo, how familiar are you with the MXM collection and their antics?
Far too familiar, and it's awful. And this segment was awful, and everything that happened over the course of this like 15 minutes was awful, and it just kept going and going and going. And I find myself thinking as I'm sitting there watching this terrible segment, why is this segment so terrible? And then it occurred to me that this exists in the same universe as what happened with Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. And that's what's wrong with AEW. Like, your entire narrative structure of the show, you have these two things both existing at the same time. And that's why nobody can take anything inside of AEW seriously. This was not good. And again, this is another one of those like 15-minute segments. You could have showed me the interview between Ospreay and Ricochet, but no, you did a fashion show instead.
Come on.
I loved it. Jimmy?
That makes two of us. I'm not gonna lie, man. I was entertained by this. I don't know what it is. I know. I'm sorry, Jargo, but for whatever reason, the MXM, I never thought I'd like these guys, man. When they were maximum male models initially in WWE, I couldn't stand them at first. You know what I mean? And then they started growing on me.
But it works in a WWE context because there's other stuff on the show that's just as fucking stupid as they are. Like, they are the AEW version of the Fashion Police. I love the Fashion Police. Tyler Breeze is one of my favorite professional wrestlers of all freaking time.
And you've always said that.
It doesn't work in the AEW context. This is the problem with AEW. They cannot establish their narrative. There is no narrative structure to the AEW universe, and that's why it sucks. And this kind of stuff just makes it worse.
Because it's going to lead... Go for it, Vent.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Jargo. I agree with you. The narrative structure sucks, and this is why AEW sucks. However, are we sure that the real problem isn't that you tried to make the Hangman and Swerve story fit into this universe, rather than that we fit a fashion show into the other universe? Because I feel like AEW is much more of a fashion show style universe.
It's absolutely a bit of both. This is the far right and the far left, and the mass majority of the public are in the middle. And this is a perfect example of it in a pro wrestling context. It's
a good point.
The two opposite ends of the spectrum, and they just can't settle where they should be in the middle.
And just quietly, Vet, I watched the interview, or listened to it actually, right? Mm-hmm. And just the start of that interview, speaking of in the middle, like, just got me, man, straight away. Go check out MXM's AEW interview. And when I say AEW, I mean AEW. Really?
Yeah, the one with RJ City and everything.
Right, yeah.
So, regardless of our opinions on how this fits in the universe, I think this is a good time to sort of reestablish and re-explain, because I haven't gotten to work with Jargo to my great dismay. I agree with the King of 2K24. He should be here more, but we understand we don't always want to subject him to such torture on a regular basis. That's why I always say you are welcome to come on anytime and talk about anything, and you are not required to watch 1 second of AEW that you do not want to. We will cover for you. We will carry it for you. We'll call it in the ring for you, kid. Just listen, whatever it is. So feel free to drop in, out anytime. You don't have to watch anything. We'll work around it. But this, because we haven't worked it together in so long, I think I have to remind everyone to refresh the a la carte theory of which is wrestling will never be good again. Wrestling is so bad now that it makes me retroactively not like things I used to like in the past. It's made me question my entire existence and why have I sunk so many hours of my life into something like this just because I love it so much, and why do I love it and what's wrong with me? All of these things. So I just take each individual piece. And just like an a la carte menu, it's like I will have one of these, I will have one of these, I'll have one of these. Sometimes, like when you have to watch, like Okada versus Guevara, for example. One of these things I'm here for. The other one I'm absolutely not. So it's like eating a fine filet mignon in a bathroom stall. Not where you'd want to do it. Nice. You're still getting the steak, but it's just not your preferred comfort. So in that sense, like I take this MXM thing, I look at the guys, they're taking what they're doing this gimmick, they're making it work in ways that never would have worked if Vince McMahon was in control of it. They're taking their natural charisma and their sense of humor, which is very funny, even if it doesn't belong here. And I just try to enjoy that in and of itself in a vacuum. I try to enjoy each thing I enjoy in a vacuum. I'm way over Roderick Strong matches, but I like Hook. So I like Hook. I got a Hook. I got a Mark Briscoe. I got all the things that I do like, the individual items. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And I encourage everyone to view wrestling this way, or many pieces of their entertainment this way. It's like you may not be able to get the full universe the way we imagine it or the way we hope it should be. It's idealism versus reality. So what we can do is we can enjoy each piece individually the best we can. Does that make more sense now?
It makes sense. I just completely disagree.
Shit.
Well, no, and I totally get what you're saying. My problem is I come from a television background. So I'm viewing the television show as a television show. I can't just pick and choose. I want this one, and I want this one, and I want this one. How do you make the show better? Like, to me, the best pro wrestling show that I have seen in the last arguably ever was Lucha Underground. And the reason that Lucha Underground was so good was they established their narrative structure and then they stayed in that narrative structure. And so it was fine if you had dragons and you had ninjas and you had a spaceman inside of that narrative structure. They never broke from that. The problem I have with both WWE and AEW at this point is they have no narrative structure. That was the one thing. As much as people want to rip on Vince Russo and Ferrara over the course of the years for all their bad ideas, one thing they did have during both the WWF time and the WCW time was they established that narrative structure and they fit everything into that narrative structure. AEW, their narrative structure changes literally segment to segment. So you have the grudge match between Hangman and Swerve, and we're dropping people on cinder blocks, and we're stabbing people with syringes. And then you have the MXM collection. And it's like, how do these two things exist inside of the same universe? The answer is they don't. And that is what is turning off AEW fans, because there's no continuity segment to segment. Sometimes even within the same segment, there will be no continuity. And that, I think, is the problem with specifically American professional wrestling.
I did pitch an idea where every time a crime is committed on camera, that Brian Keith can go and try to like arrest them with a rope and collect the bounty on these fugitives, but I don't think they plan to adopt
that's a great example, right? Because you have like this whole thing with Moxley and Danielson, right? That was an attempted murder. Like, no matter how you strike it, that's attempted murder. And so the result of this attempted murder isn't that Moxley is being arrested. It's not that Moxley is being suspended. It's not that Danielson is like, no, 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 don't suspend John Moxley. I want a piece of his ass. It's that we're just not going to talk about it. We're not going to show it. And we're going to have a wrestling match where you have to hold the other guy's shoulders down for 3 seconds in order to win. No, it was attempted murder. Like, there's no comeuppance from attempted murder. That's the reason you don't say, I'm going to kill you in the ring tonight, because you're not going to kill them. If you were going to kill them, you would be going to jail. So you can't have this ultra-violent, arson-ridden TV show and then have the MXM collection and Mark Briscoe with his word of the week. Like, I love Mark Briscoe. Doesn't fit inside of the narrative structure that you have established over here. And it's just, everything is coming so a la carte to put it together. It's almost like you're watching SNL instead of a television show. That's very much what American professional wrestling has come. It's sketch comedy, segment to segment. Nothing exists in the same universe. Nobody interacts with one another. It's just, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and there's no back overlap. There's no narrative structure, to keep bringing it up. There's no narrative structure to the television show, and it turns people off.
And to bring it full circle, we can thank Vince McMahon for that. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So the last two things on this show, a la carte or not, or narrative structure, we get a lumberjack strap match with Jeff versus the arsonist Adam Page.
The arsonist.
Very, very simply, Hangman gets whipped by literally everyone in the building and then he just wins. He hits the dead eye and wins. So great. You really got the gimmick of the match over.
And you managed to turn the Bang Bang Gang babyface. What could possibly go wrong there?
Oh, they have been for a long time. That's okay.
And what the hell was Juice?
They have been, but they haven't been. You know? Like, they're still booked as heels.
Yeah, no narrative structure. No narrative structure.
Is Jay White injured, by the way? What's going on with Jay White, man? Anyone?
No one knows.
Yeah, nobody knows. He's crying. He's crying because he wanted to go to WWE. They put a hiring freeze in place when Endeavor bought the company. So he signed with AEW, and now he's just sitting in the corner with his switchblade, wishing that, he would have had another 6 months on his New Japan contract.
Oh, shit. Funny enough, when I went to the New Japan pay-per-view here a few years ago, back in 2019, and I was backstage, like, interacting with everyone, that's exactly what Jay White was doing, sitting in the corner, I kid you not, looking down on his phone, just not giving a shit what was going on around him. Just in the corner.
Because he gets it.
He gets
because he gets it.
Absolutely, 100%.
And another guy that gets it, main event, Okada versus Guevara. I was going to be curious about this because I'm like, okay, well, how many different ways can Okada tell Sammy no? But I guess it was the best match Sammy Guevara ever had. But other than that, I don't have much to say about it. Yeah, don't have much to say.
Get in the ring with the greatest professional wrestler of a generation, and you have the best match you've ever had. Shocker,
dude. Did you see all the welts all over Okada too? He stiffed him a few times. It seems Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, he was bleeding from the mouth and
right. Yeah. I mean, he would have been pissed. He would have been like, "What? Don't ever put me in the ring with this idiot ever again." Straight up.
If you get out of a match with Sammy and all you got is a bloody lip, you count your blessings and you move on to the next one.
But if you notice, a lot of guys that have been going against Okada recently, it looks like they've been hurting him, dude, lately. Like, he's been going up against some crappy workers, man. You know what I mean? Compared to him. And it's really showing on Okada, not anyone else, because Okada's just plain and simply, arguably, the best professional wrestler right now in terms of in-ring work and everything. You know what I mean? But every time he gets in the ring with some of these idiots, he's the one getting banged up and not them because he's that good.
Yeah. Well,
he's still the best wrestler on the planet. There's a lot of the audience that is very unhappy with the way that Okada has been presented since he came to AEW. And they're the same people that would have cried that, if they would have just brought in main event Okada and put the world title on him right away. Well, why didn't you introduce him to the American audience? Nobody even knows who this guy is. So they've spent, all this time introducing him to the American audience and telling them who this guy is. And they don't like that either. So I think what Okada is doing is great. He's gotten over bitch. He's gotten over the Rainmaker middle finger pose. Yeah. I mean, awesome, I think Okada has just been an absolute MVP of the company. As much as people want to rip on it and tear it apart, Okada's always been a dick, though. That's the thing I don't get is the people that do know Okada, that have been following Okada, and they lived through Balloon Okada even. This is not that far away from the Kazuchika Okada character that you got in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah. People respect Okada because he's the best wrestler in the world, but he's always been an egomaniacal dick. At the root of the Okada character, that's it.
Absolutely.
And how do you get over as a babyface in 2024?
By being a heel. But I tell you what, the first time he hits that actual Rainmaker pose and gives, one of the Bucks or Hangman, the actual spinning Rainmaker, that place is going to lose their freaking minds. And then Okada's going to continue to be a dick as a babyface, because he's Okada and he's a dick. That's literally, he is a dick.
That's his thing. Yeah, exactly. He's a dick. And
maybe we'll even get balloons. Maybe we'll even get them. AEW can afford a lot of balloons. Just ask Mercedes. Hey, where's Mercedes?
Yeah, that's why we're seeing Guevara on television. You know that.
She's like, I'm free to leave? Okay, good. Put the kid in the main event. Quick, while nobody's looking. And I'm sure as we'll see, nobody was. But that's a shame because it was a decent match. But that's the end. We ran through an entire week of AEW. We're all a little bit sadder, but the big win. Yeah, it's a grand slam. The big win is that Jargo is here, and we got to hear from him and hang out with him for a couple hours. So that's my a la carte. I'm choosing top. My main course is always Dr. Jargo. So thank you very much, Jargo, for sitting with us and talking about this trash.
I'm just happy that it worked out, man. Most of the time I'm at work when you guys are doing this show, and I happen to be available, and Jimmy happened to ask if I was going to be around, and sure enough I was. So here I am. It's good to see you, Vet. It's always good to see Jimmy, even though he doesn't actually exist because he lives down in Australia. And this was fun. It was nice catching up with both of you guys.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to get heat for you being on this show now.
That seems to go around.
Too goddamn professional is all. That's all it is. Well, you can tell us where people might be able to find you professionally, Jargo, if you like. And we'll get on out of here.
Whenever I do a show, whether it be here or over at nodq.com, and they ask me for my plugs, I always say, don't try to find me on social media. Chances are I do not want to talk to you. Instead, you can look up my friend, The Vet. You can find him at Opinion Haver throughout the social media platforms. And The Vet will love to sit and talk professional wrestling with you.
I always do. That's right. At Opinion Haver for all of my social media. And Todd Brantley did an Okada stiff someone a while back for taking liberties with him. That was a work. But again, the amount of people that bought it just tells you why he's one of the best. If not the best, he's the best. So yeah, at Opinion Haver on all your social media platforms. You know the shows I do. You know the shows I tell you to watch. Go do all that stuff. And we'll be back here next week around the same time. What about you, Jimmy? What do you got going on? What do you got cooking up? We got shows coming up.
Oh, man, I've got quite a few. As a matter of fact, this coming Tuesday, 11 a.m. Well, actually 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. You can catch me and Big Ray with the I Like It Raw show, where we talk all things WWE Raw every Tuesday mornings. Also, the Smack Attack every Saturday mornings with myself and John Enright, and of course the Wreckage with myself and the Vet, Jargo. But it was a pleasure having you on, man. Like I said, we're going to get heat for you being on this show because everyone wants you on their show. but we got you first. So, and it's always a pleasure when you're right. And I've said this to you off the air a million times, dude. You don't even have to ask. You've got an open door policy with us, man. You're part of the team. You know, always will be part of the team. And I'm just happy that you finally got on to talk AEW, even if it was about AEW. But, you know, that's professional wrestling in 2024,
Oh, if you think
unfortunately.
I hate
But
AEW, man, you should hear me do a WWE show. Holy shit.
well, maybe that's next, man. As a matter of fact, whenever you're free. But like I said, I'm just happy you made it, and that's all that matters. But if you want to follow me on the Twitter, you can at DJ MassFX, and also at the PWC Network. Like and subscribe right here on channelattitude.com, where $5 only do you get the best but realest talk in all the pro wrestling. Also, HaminMediaGroup.podbean.com for all our affiliate shows, and that's about it. But last and not least, please like and subscribe right here at Hamin YouTube channel, because every time I say it, we get a few more subscribers and we're really close to getting that 1,000 mark. So please get us to that 1,000 mark. Like, share, subscribe, share it to everybody so we can get that 1,000 mark. And I think that's about it. So in saying that, I am Jimmy T. That is the vet Jamie Williams. And that is Dr. Michael Jargo. And you've been listening and watching
The
Wreckage.
Wreckage.
Right here on channelattitude.com via Hamin Media Group. And we're out. Peace.